then going to feel the back of your head on the floor. So feel the contact of the back of your head on the floor. Feel the contact of the back of your shoulders on the ground and just let your shoulders settle back. That's it, Linda. Let your arms settle. And then you're going to start very easily letting your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And very much keep this movement within your comfort zone. So don't feel that you're trying to push anything. And in fact, everything that we do lying down should be very much within your comfort zone, sort of easing out, not pushing, even being lazy. So a few more times, let your head ease to the right and to the left. Then from rolling your head from side to side, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. And as you do so, again, you can let your shoulders settle back and have a cycle of breath here. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you, and notice how the back of your neck feels. And if it would help you to feel a bit comfier, you could then pick up your head in your hands and gently lengthen out the back of your neck. But remember, lots of these things are options. So, if I suggest an option, then just do it if you think it would feel comfortable. Okay, and then the next thing, if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And you're going to start to tilt your knees to the right and to the left. That's it. So Sheila, if your lower back, I assume your lower back is not feeling great. Yeah, yes, this can be helpful. And again, keep this movement within your comfort zone. So as you're letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left, try and find a movement that feels enjoyable to you, that helps you perhaps ease into some of those tight places in your body. And all the time, keep letting your shoulders rest back on the floor as sort of soft and relaxed as possible. Good. So maybe 2 or 3 more times with the knees tilting from side to side. And we're going to do a bit more rocking. So just pause in the center for a moment. And then you're going to cross your arms over your chest. So you're giving yourself a hug and you're trying to make sure you've got one arm on top completely. And this is, so just make sure one arm is completely on top. And now I'd like you to start letting your elbows and your knees and your head all rock a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. That's it, that's nice. So we're just doing this sort of easy, hopefully enjoyable rocking from side to side across the back of your body. And again, if your shoulders are a bit tight or you're feeling tight across your upper back. Now, Sarah, it looks to me that you've got your hand sort of tucked underneath when it should maybe come, that one arm isn't fully on top. That's it. So you want to have the bottom arm, that hand comes towards the armpit. That looks better. That's it. Good, good. That's nice. It just helps for the arms to be a bit more relaxed if we can have them like that. Okay. What you could do in a moment is pause in the center and change the cross of your arms so that you put the other arm on top. That's it. And then come to a little bit more rocking. And particularly if, like Sheila, Linda, if we were feeling a bit, not a bit stiff in a particular part of our spine or our body, just carrying on with this rocking perhaps a little bit more than you might do normally. Okay. And then we'll settle in the center. We'll uncross our arms. Keep your knees, actually maybe just lengthen your legs out for a moment and just roll your legs or bounce your knees on the ground. Good. That's it. And then come back to bending your knees again, standing your feet on the floor. And just a couple of times, tilt your knees to the right and to the left again. Twist your knees, good. And feel how your weight shifts side to side across the back of your pelvis. Because then what I'd like you to do is stop tilting your knees and start tilting your pelvis up and down on the floor. Now, Sheila, you may find this, there's not a huge range of movement if your lower back is tight. So you're doing the movement where you're tipping your pelvis away from your face and towards your face. So in one direction, we flatten out the lower back when we tip our pelvis towards our face. And in the other direction, when we tip our pelvis away from our face, our lower back arches off the floor a little. But if our lower back's stiff, these movements may be quite small. And particularly I find if my lower back is a bit tight, then the arching doesn't happen. And what I'd like you to do from these movements is do them a couple more times and then let yourself go a bit further. So when you're tipping your pelvis towards your face, you let yourself go all the way into bridge pose. And you're going to roll up and down through bridge pose. Very easily, you don't have to go very far, but maybe do that 3 times. And again, it's the coming down from bridge pose, which is really helpful for releasing the lower back a bit. So trying to place the vertebrae down one by one. And Linda, when you come up in bridge pose for you, just really think about your shoulders resting back and easing out your head and neck a little bit. And it might be good at this point to rest your hands on the floor beside you, your arms on the floor beside you. So you're not in a way weighing down your pelvis with your hands. Good. So when you've done bridge pose 3 times, perhaps fold, there's no rush, but perhaps fold your knees into your chest, just so I know that you've done that. If that, yes, Linda, it would be good to just see how that is. Good. That's it. Fold your knees into your chest. Have a couple of quiet breaths there, a little bit of rocking side to side. Good. And then we're going to bring our feet back onto the floor and we're going to do our little sort of mini sit up where we tilt our pelvis towards our head as well as lifting our head. So bring your feet to the floor, bring your hands around the back of your head and interlink your fingers. So you're going to do this 3 times. So as you exhale, you're going to lift your head and look between your legs and try and tip your pelvis towards your head. So the middle of your back presses down on the ground. And again, just go easy with this, Sheila. And repeat this 3 times. So you come down as you breathe in, you go up as you exhale, you perhaps gather your elbows in a little bit as you're lifting your head. Good. Do this 3 times. And then we're going to do a little bit more. Don't think you're good. So what I'd like you to do now is 3 times alternate between bridge pose and the little mini sit up. So release your arms and down by your sides and come into bridge pose. And then you're going to do one of those little mini sit ups. And then you're going to repeat that 3 times. Good. So little mini sit up, come down into bridge pose, another little mini sit up, another bridge pose. And just seeing in your body how these 2 movements can inform each other. And it's a little bit like we're moving in cat. We're letting our spine move in these sort of 2 directions. Good. Now, I'm not counting, but it looks like you are. What I'd like you to do is finish with a bridge pose. So I think it will mean that you end up doing 4 bridge poses. That's it. Finish with a bridge pose and then you can fold your knees into your chest. That's nice. And hold around your knees and either a little bit of rocking from side to side or a little bit of quiet breathing. And if you like, you can also take your legs up towards the ceiling and give your legs a little bit of a shake out. And in a moment, I think I've not missed anything out. In a moment, we're going to roll onto one side, have a couple of breaths on your side, and we're going to come over into standing. But we're not doing anything too dramatic to start with. We're going to, again, carry on with sort of loosening up a bit, and also focusing on our breathing in standing. So make your way over into standing. You might want to take your socks off if you can bear it. It's still continuing to be rather cold, given that we're nearly May. So once you've arrived in standing, we're just going to do a little bit of this sort of loose, easy swinging twist. So swinging your arms from side to side, slapping your hands onto your body, if you like. We're going to alternate between doing this a few times and coming to our breathing. So again, we're just carrying on with, being quite easy. That's it. So Sheila, we were just doing a little bit of swinging our arms from side to side. So again, this is good if your shoulders are stiff. You know, that might include some of us. Good. Swinging the arms, letting the feet move a little bit. And we're then going to do this a couple more times. We're then going to settle with our breath, bring our attention to our breath for a couple of cycles of breath. Stay in standing. I'm just going to move a little bit nearer and kneel. I'd like you to bring one hand onto your chest and one hand onto your belly, and just see how this organisation of your hands helps you feel your breath. It may or may not help. So it could be, once you've brought your hands onto your body, that you close your eyes and you just let yourself settle, maybe just for, say, 3 cycles of breath. Now, if standing isn't feeling very comfortable, you could be swaying a little bit from side to side. And if your lower back's tight, you might find that you want to bend your knees and wiggle your pelvis a little bit. That's another possibility. So do feel that you don't have to stay sort of rigid in standing. So one more cycle of breath, just seeing if you can connect with the feeling of your breath coming in, connect with the feeling of your breath leaving you. And then release your arms, open your eyes, come back to swinging your arms again. Come back to that sort of side to side movement, good. So really what we're thinking about at this point, let your feet move on the floor. So try and let your whole body, that's it. Let those feet move. Good, let your whole body be involved in the movement a few more times. Aditi, I can't see those feet moving. That's it, good. So I can see your feet very well. I can see them moving, excellent. Okay, let's just come back to our breathing, but with our hands in a different position. So this time you're going to bring your hands onto your low ribs. I've got my thumbs going around towards my back ribs a little bit. And again, the same thing, settle down in standing and see if you can feel your breath moving in this part of your body. So it could be that you close your eyes again. So as you breathe in, can you feel these ribs widen into your hands? And as you exhale, can you feel the ribs narrow? So maybe just for 2 more cycles of breath, feeling your low ribs widening as you breathe in, narrowing as you exhale. Good. And then release your arms, and one last time, swinging your arms. That's it, from side to side. So there's just some days when we need a bit more of these sort of releasing, easing out things. So what we're going to do now is just see in standing how it feels to come into a forward bend. And then we're going to be coming into a sequence. It's quite a simple sequence. So yeah, if you're feeling stiff, don't worry too much. So have a look down at your feet, have your feet a little distance apart. And then we're going to sort of carry on that looking down process by folding forwards. So Sheila, you may well want to stay with your elbows on your thighs. And yeah, and even that, or even your hands on your thighs. So just see. So see how it feels in that sort of place, that halfway point. Your knees are bent, your elbows are on your thighs. If your lower back feels absolutely fine, then you can flop down to the floor, let your arms go, let your head go. And if you're resting your elbows on your thighs, you can still let your head go. And yes, I was thinking of that one, Sarah. You can do those weeping willow side to side movements if you like. And yeah, that's it. Yes, a little bit of swaying from side to side, Sheila's a good one, even with your elbows on your thighs. Absolutely. So we're thinking about the sense that movement can help us release and soften through our bodies. Maybe just another cycle of breath in your forward bend. So let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And as you exhale, if your back is tight, Sheila, you can walk your hands up your thighs. Otherwise, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. So we're going to come to the back of our mats and we're going to come down through a little sequence going through standing, forward bend dog, and some hands and knees things. So a bit of child pose, a bit of tail wagging. So come to stand at the back of your mat, bring your hands into prayer pose. And from here, let a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. And let a breath come in, feeling long and tall. And then from here, we're going to start to fold forwards in a forward bend. So you can bend your knees, gather your elbows in. You can come to rest your elbows on your knees, or you can release all the way into your forward bend. So you're having a couple of breaths in your forward bend, and then you're going on into dog pose in a way that's comfortable for you. And just seeing how dog pose feels. We can notice all sorts of things in dog pose. We might become more aware of tension in the shoulders. Linda, dog pose is a really good place for you to think about letting your head hang. So you've sort of got gravity working on you. And really wide across the back of the shoulders, Aditi, would be nice. Good. Ah, lovely. Well done. That's it. Brilliant. Good. Letting your heads go. And from dog pose, when you've had a couple of breaths, come down onto hands and knees. And settle yourself on hands and knees. And so a little bit in your own time, you're going to be doing some kiss and cat. You're going to be doing some tail wagging. So you could start with a few cycles of cat. We did some cat-like movements on our backs, so we possibly won't feel quite as creaky as we might do. But again, Sheila, I know that if my lower back is tight, then my rounding up in cat is very restricted, as is my dipping down. So just use cat to see how you're feeling, rounding and dipping. And then you could maybe come on to a little bit of imagining you have a tail and wagging your tail. And this is so good for releasing tension around the pelvis into the sides of the body. So if you're doing your tail wagging and your lower back feels a bit pinchy, just look back towards your knees. So look back sort of along your mat towards your knees. You could also swing your lower legs. You could do the variation where you swing your lower legs from side to side. I think we all know that one. So swinging our lower legs from side to side brings us into our tail wagging movement. And yes, if you want to add your head in, you can do. So Linda, I was just thinking for your neck again, it would be quite good to add your head in. So look, if your legs go to one side, look towards your feet. And then on the other side, but obviously don't do it too quickly. But that side bending movement could be quite helpful for your neck. Then just come back a few times to cat. And see how your cat feels. A few times rounding and dipping in cat. And then from our rounded up cat, we will move into child pose for a couple of breaths. So when you're ready, you can round your back to the ceiling. You can stay rounded, rock your hips back over your heels, and just settle down into child pose for a couple of quiet breaths. Resting your elbows on the floor, that's very nice. Aditi, looking nice and wide across your upper back. Yes, if your feet are cramping, then obviously come out of child pose, rock forwards a little bit. And then from Child pose, we're going to be coming back onto hands and knees, back through dog pose and a forward bend and up into standing. So we can see how this second dog pose feels. So hands and knees, tucking our toes under, very nice, good. And of course in dog pose, all these little things we can do to help ourselves settle and soften in dog. There's bending the knees, there's sort of big exhalations, there's really resting down through the arms and trying to be as wide across the back of the shoulders as possible. Letting the head go. And then from dog, walking the hands in towards the feet. So we come into a forward bend. If it's better for our backs, we can rest our elbows on our thighs. The knees can be bent. And then again, if you don't need to support your back, you can, in your forward bend, touch the back of your hands together. We're going to roll up into standing or walk your hands up your thighs to support your back. So backs of the hands touching if you can, trailing your hands up towards the ceiling. So that's it, Sheila. You could walk up and then take your arms up. I don't know, I've disappeared into darkness here. Feel long and tall, and then exhale, take your hands down and around. Hopefully Zoom will click in and I'll brighten up. Okay, we're going to just stay in standing now and do a few balancy things and then go back through that sequence. So the first thing I'd like you to do, we haven't done this one for a while, it's the one where we're coming forwards onto the balls of our feet. So let's just repeat that a few times and see how it feels. Good. And again, if it's helpful for you to have your fingertips on a wall, then of course move somewhere, wall or a mantelpiece. But just a few times, how does it feel to bring your weight onto the balls of your feet and then let your heels come back down. So this is, as we know, it's a little balance, but we're on 2 feet. Okay, let's just for a moment, before we're going to go a bit further with this, but let's just for a moment come onto the top. So 1 foot at a time, come onto the top of the other foot and stretch out the front of your ankle. That's it. And do that on each side. Maybe do it a couple of times on each side. And this, can be so good. I just think, if you've been doing a lot of walking or even running, then these ones are so good. So we're doing that on each side, and then we'll come back to, and we'll take this into more of a balance now. We'll come back to balancing on the balls of our feet. And if we can balance, we'll float our arms up. So see if you can bring your weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. That's it. And once you're steady, then you can float your arms up by your sides. So the arms end up sort of either side of your head. Can be quite wide if you like. Elbows soft, shoulders dropping. And see if we can have perhaps 2 or 3 cycles of breath here. Can we be steady? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave us. And then with all balances, we could see if we can come out in a controlled and conscious way by lowering the arms, lowering the heels. Good. Give each leg a little shake out. And then again, we're going to do one more variation of this. So perhaps before we do this, again, just come onto the front of your heels. No, the front of your feet, top of your toes. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. Top of your toes. Stretch out the fronts of your ankles. Do that a couple of times if you like, depending how stiff you're feeling there. Okay, so what we're going to do this time is once we're up in the balance, so once we've got our arms up here, we're going to touch our thumb and index finger together. If you feel drawn to touching your thumb onto a different finger, that's fine. Just do the same finger in each hand. Otherwise I just think it's too much for the brain to comprehend, especially on Monday morning. So, same thing to start with, weight coming forwards onto the balls of the feet. We're going to bring our arms up, and it's once our arms are up that we're then going to touch our thumb and index finger together. It just gives us this sort of point of focus. Once you've touched your thumb and index finger together, can you let your shoulders soften? Good. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then see what it's like to take your arms down to shoulder height and wide, maybe turning your palms up. You're still touching the thumb and index finger. Very nice. And then finally, we'll finish by bringing the hands in front of our chest and crossing our wrists. So I've got the palms of my hands facing me. Good. And you can really let the shoulders drop at this point. Very nice. Brilliant. Well done. Be here forever. And then come down. Again, a little shake out of hands and feet. And one last time, come onto the top of each foot in turn. So we're going to be going back down now to the ground through that same little sequence again, although we might do a little bit of coming onto the tops of the feet in dog pose, depending how your dog pose feels. So come to the back of your mat again. Let your hands come into prayer pose. I'm sorry, the bin lorry's out there. It will be gone soon. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall, receive an inhalation, and then start to bend your knees, gather your elbows in, rolling down into a forward bend. Maybe the elbows come onto the thighs, maybe you release your arms. And then from your forward bend, you'll be moving on into dog pose, however feels comfortable for you. And let yourself have a couple of breaths to arrive in dog pose. And then if you want to play around with these ones where we roll onto the top of one lot of toes and then the other, so obviously 1 foot at a time. And it feels a bit easier doing this movement here in dog, but you don't have to do that in dog. You could just be having a couple of quiet breaths. And then from dog, we'll be coming back onto hands and knees, and we'll be revisiting cat and tail wagging. So I've been finding it helpful over the last few weeks to keep coming back to these hands and knees movements. So on hands and knees, how does it feel to come back to cat, to round and dip your spine? And maybe even in small ways, we might feel that things are easing a little bit. So a bit of rounding and dipping. And again, Linda, I was thinking for you, when you're rounding your back to the ceiling, really make sure you let your head hang. There's another opportunity to let the neck lengthen out. And come back to a bit of tail wagging. Remember to look back towards your legs if it feels at all pinchy in your lower back. And you could also look, if you swing your legs from side to side, you could add the head in by looking down the side of your body towards your feet. So obviously if you're doing this, I wouldn't go too quickly. You might feel a bit dizzy if you're adding your head in. But it's quite good for the neck. And then maybe a little bit more cat, and then we'll come into child pose again for a couple of quiet breaths. So when you come back to cat, it's your rounded up cat, as you know, that takes you back into child pose. So from a rounded cat, stay rounded, look back towards your feet as you rock back into child. And that just helps your back lengthen out a bit more, and it helps the front of your body quieten. So we can settle in child pose, the forehead touches to the ground, or maybe you rest one hand on top of the other and your forehead rests on the back of your hands. And just soften and settle there. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Okay, and then in your own time, it's going to be dog pose again. So you could do those little foot exercises in dog pose if you like, again in this dog. So it'd be dog pose, forward bend, but again, take your time. So, particularly I find dog pose, it changes each time we do a dog. And as it starts to perhaps come more comfortable, we might want to spend longer there. And yeah, so the foot exercises, rolling onto the top of one lot of toes and then the other, they're just a suggestion. There might be other things that you feel in this dog pose you want to do.
So really focusing on exhaling and the belly emptying in dog is good for releasing the lower back. And obviously letting the head go is really helpful in dog. And from dog, we'll walk the hands in towards the feet. We'll arrive in a forward bend that's comfortable for us. So it might be with the arms releasing, it might be with the elbows on the thighs. And let a cycle of breath move through you in your forward bend. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave. And then touching the back of your hands together. If you can, you don't have to, rolling up into standing, trailing your hands up your body. And yes, and Sheila, you can still bring your arms up. You can feel long and tall for a moment. And then exhaling. Good. Yes, finding the space in the room. Now, we're just going to do a little balance in standing, where we are sort of one-legged one. We're going to then come back to our sequence with slightly different things in it, and then do a bit more standing balancing. So what I'd like you to do now is just look down at your feet. So partly just to check that they're well organized, a small distance apart, parallel, but also to help you bring your attention into your feet. So looking at your feet, and then stop looking at your feet, maybe closing your eyes and start swaying a little bit from side to side. As we do so, can you let your shoulders really drop and your arms hang? So feeling your weight shift over one leg and foot and over the other. And in a moment, we're just going to do quite a simple balance, and we're going to be bringing our weight into one leg and foot, and you're going to choose which. So you can open your eyes now, bring your weight over one leg and foot, come onto the ball of the other foot, and then you're going to pick that foot up completely and stand it on your standing foot. And then bring your hands into prayer pose at your chest. So just quite a simple little balance. And then, you know, what do we experience? What do we feel when we come into this balance? Might be a bit of wobbling in our standing foot. It might be that we start to notice tension elsewhere. So the shoulders, perhaps, can we let them soften and drop? And what's happening in your jaw, with your tongue, with your lips? Can we make sure there is soft and relaxed? And can we feel the breath moving through us, coming in and leaving? Good. So come down, have a little shake out, and we'll try the same thing on the other side. So this sort of simple balance, but obviously some days it feels more simple than others. So come back to a little bit of swaying, and then we'll be taking the weight onto the other foot. So come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on, and then let that foot stand on your other foot. And bring your hands to prayer pose at your heart, and then see how does it feel on this side. And it's very much, you know, what presents itself to us in our field of awareness. So you know, anything is valid, whatever you notice in your body. So it could be a sort of wobbly standing foot. That foot's constantly adjusting to help stabilize your body. Can we let the shoulders soften, the face soften? Can we feel the movement of the breath through us? Good, very nice. So we're going to now come back to our little sequence, but we're going to add a couple of different things into it. And then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more involved, a little bit more balancing. So once again, at the back of your mat, bringing your hands into prayer pose, letting a breath come in as you exhale, taking your arms down and then up, feeling long and tall for a moment, dropping your shoulders away from your ears. And then the knees bend a bit, the elbows bend, you gather your elbows in, you can rest your elbows on the thighs, you can release forwards into a forward bend. Have a cycle of breath in your forward bend and then on into dog. And a few breaths in dog pose. particularly if it's starting to feel more enjoyable. Perhaps another cycle or two of breath in dog pose, letting your head go, resting through your arms. And then this time, when you come down into hands and knees, there's no rush, but when you're ready, we're going to, so from hands and knees, we're going to be stepping one foot forwards. So we're coming into this position, which we do quite a lot on Mondays. So we're going to do our little twist here. So you've got your front knee, sorry, I'll sort of disappear into darkness again. You've got your front knee over your front heel, and just make sure, so we're not in a lunge yet, you've got your back knee under your pelvis, yeah, not further back. And then we're going to turn towards our front leg. So Sarah, hold on, yes, be upright, because we're going to do a twist here. Also seems to think it's dog pose. We come from the wrong time, haven't we? So we're turning towards our top leg. The front hand, so it's the opposite hand comes to rest on that thigh. The back arm, can we give it away? Maybe we shake it out. Maybe we bring that hand to rest on the back of our pelvis. And then again here, try and let the shoulders drop down away from your ears. We feel wide across the front of the chest. And then perhaps we're moving into some of that tightness in the upper back. Good. Okay. And then from this twist, as you untwist, you're then going to fold forwards over your front leg. And we are then going to move on into lunge. So tucking your back toes under, walking your back leg back. So what I would like you to, well, I think we've probably all experienced this in lunge. We're looking to find that stretch through the front of our back leg thigh. So that leg we've walked back, can we then give the pelvis, the weight of our pelvis to the ground? And can we try and settle into that stretch? So looking down at the ground, just, yeah, breathing, giving the pelvis down, just trying to settle into that feeling of opening through the front of the back leg thigh. Maybe for another cycle or two of breath. And try to feel the flow of your breath through your nostrils generally. Sometimes we'll have a big sighing breath through our mouth, but otherwise generally trying to feel the flow of your breath through your nostrils. We'll ease back out of lunge, so you can untuck your back toes and you can rock back, keeping your chest close to your thigh, looking back behind you, letting your shoulders soften. And then let's swap over front legs. So maybe coming back onto hands and knees and bringing the other foot forward. So we're going to do our twist first of all. So make sure again you've got your front knee over your heel. You've got your pelvis over your back knee. That's it. You're coming upright. At this point, it's probably good to drop the shoulders down away from your ears and then turning towards your front leg. Giving away the back arm to start with, and then the hand can come on the pelvis. Resting the front hand on your front thigh. Shoulder, it looks very nice, well done. Shoulders dropping down. Feeling wide across the front of your chest. Having a couple of breaths here. Very nice, good. And then let's untwist. Let's fold forwards over that front leg. And then let's move on into lunge by tucking the back toes under. That's it. Good. And then the same thing, we're trying to sort of settle down into that stretch using our exhalation. So it might be that this is a good point to have a couple of big sighing breaths through the mouth. And as we settle into lunge, maybe we can bring our attention to feeling the flow of our breath through our nostrils. Good. Good. So maybe another cycle or two of breath, depending how your lunge is feeling. And we can ease our way out of lunge, untucking the back toe, keeping the chest close to the thigh, rocking back, looking back behind us. And then once more, we'll come onto hands and knees and again revisit some cat, some tail wagging. And this repetition of these movements is really helpful for releasing tension. So again, how does it feel in your body when you come to moving cat? Rounding your back, dipping your spine. Feeling this movement around the middle of yourself, but it also affects your shoulders, affects your hip joints. Good. Whenever you like, you can move on to doing a little bit of tail wagging. So it could just be that imagining you have a tail and this sort of side to side swishing of your pelvis. Yes, I just have to remember what we're going to do. Let's take our weight. Let's come into, when we've done a little bit of tail wagging, let's just come for a moment into child pose. So you could come back to just a little bit of rounding and dipping in cat. And then rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels. And just come to child pose, maybe just for a breath or two. So you take the weight off your hands and your wrists. And then I just wanted us to take both our cat and our tail wagging a little bit further towards face up dog. So Sheila, obviously only go as far as feels right for you. So when you've had a breath or two in child pose, come back onto hands and knees. So on hands and knees, you're going to tuck your toes under. You're going to round your back to the ceiling. You're going to rock your hips back over your heels. You're looking back at your feet. And then walk your hands forwards a little bit on the mat. And then you're going to come forwards towards your face up dog, rounding your back to the ceiling. And you just might go part way, Sheila, depending how it feels. If it feels okay, you're rounding your back to the ceiling, traveling forwards until you can then let your pelvis go. You can look forwards. Good. And then we can reverse this movement, start to go back, tucking the toes under, rounding the back to the ceiling, rocking the hips back over the heels. If your hands were too close, slide them forwards a little bit more now. And again, as you exhale, traveling forwards, rounding your back to the ceiling, traveling only as far as feels right for you into face up dog. Good. We'll do this maybe one more time. We can go back, tuck the toes under, and then we can travel forwards, exhaling, rounding our back. And then this time when you rock back, keep your feet, you should make sure your shoulders come right down away from your ears, Sarah, that's it. This time when you rock back, keep your feet flat on the floor and go into child pose for a couple of breaths. And we'll just, in a moment, we'll just do a little bit of moving from our tail wagging towards face up dog and into child pose. So when you're ready from child pose, when you've given your hands and wrists a little bit of a rest, come onto hands and knees. And you might want to be in a slightly longer hands and knees. And you're just going to come to your tail wagging movements. And then see how it feels to take that tail wagging back to child pose. And then forwards into face up dog. You can do this 2 or 3 times in your own time. And you've very much got this sort of control here, that you only have to go as far back or forwards as feels good in your body. You can just keep this very sort of fluid, snaky sort of movement. I'm sorry, there's some drilling that's just started in the house next door. If it gets terrible, I will go and complain. Okay, so perhaps one last time, make this your last face up dog if you so wish. And that's it. And then we will be coming into dog pose. So you could go straight from face up dog, or you could go from hands and knees into dog pose. Might be that you need to walk your feet in a little bit. So yeah, a few breaths in dog pose, and then from dog into the forward bend and rolling up into standing. So from dog pose, we can walk our hands in towards our feet. We can even walk our hands up the front of our legs or touch the backs of the hands together, rolling up into standing. Have a little shake out. Okay, we're going to, just shake things out. So we're going to just come to a little bit of balancing in standing. And then doing very well. We're getting to that point of coming to lie down again. So what I'd like you to do is start with your feet side by side and a little bit of distance between them. And then from here, you're going to step 1 foot forwards, keeping your sideways distance, and just do a little bit of rocking your weight forwards and back. So we're going to do this little balance as a sequence. In a moment, you're going to be bringing all of your weight into your front foot. And you can bring your front foot hand onto your breastbone, and we're going to be catching the top of the back foot. So we're coming into this balance here, this sort of dancer balance. And from here, once you've steadied yourself, so you've caught your back foot or your trouser leg, once you've steadied yourself here, you can then start to reach your hand forwards and your foot back. And Sheila, you might just be a little bit cautious. Argue about that. And just see if you can have a couple of cycles of breath here. Good. Very nice. Beautiful. And then you can come back down. We're going to try this a couple of times on each side. So don't feel that that's your only opportunity. So come back down. Let's try the other side. So come back to feet being side by side. Step the other foot forwards. And just come to a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So sometimes I find with balances, it's really helpful to think about them as being part of movement rather than the sort of static place we're trying to get to and then stay in. So we can bring our front leg hand into our breastbone, and we're going to bring all of our weight then into our front foot. Lift the back foot up, catch the top of the foot or the ankle or your trouser leg, and settle in your balance here for perhaps a cycle of breath. And then you can start reaching your foot back away from your bottom and your arm forwards. That's it, that's it, that's it, Sarah. So really pull your foot back away from your bottom as well as that's it, as well as tipping forwards. Good. So you find a bit more of a stretch through that front leg, thigh. And again on this side, see if you can have 2 or 3 cycles of breath. Come back down, that's good. Well done. You've had enough. Have a little shake out. Now we're going to repeat that once more on each side in a moment. I think maybe first of all come into a forward bend, and it might be good to go down into a squat. So Sheila, I don't know whether squatting might be good for your lower back. So come into a forward, just a sort of easy forward bend. If you like to do your weeping willow movements, you can do. If you'd like to go on into a squat, if that will feel good for your back, come down into a squat. Or if you just enjoy being in a squat, Taddy too. Then so squatting is can be really helpful if our lower back's feeling tight. Good. And then we're going to repeat that whole little sequence with the balance, but we're going to use a mudra. We're going to be touching the thumb and index finger together in our front hand, and just see whether that helps us. Does that give us a little bit more focus? So come back up into standing, give your legs a shake out, and then step your first foot forwards again. And you can come back to this rocking forwards and back. it's quite settling and soothing, which is what we need before a balance. We just need to really drop down into our feet. So what we're going to do with the front leg hand is we're going to touch the thumb and index finger together. So touch your thumb and index finger together in your front leg hand and bring that hand onto your breastbone. Okay? So you touch the thumb and index finger, or you could touch the thumb onto the nail of the finger. That's another, or the pad or the nail. And then let your weight come into your front foot. So just like we did last time, catch the top of your back foot or your ankle or your trouser leg. And then this time as you reach your arm forwards, keep the thumb and index finger touching and turn your palm upwards. So I always think here it's like you're making this sort of little gesture of offering, maybe offering a gift to someone with the palm upwards. And again, reaching the foot back behind you. And just see that contact of thumb and index finger. Does that have any effect? Does the balance feel different? That's very nice. Good. Well done. Yes, do come back down when you like. So anyway, just really experiencing for yourself, does it have any impact? Do you have that focus of the thumb and index finger touching? So we do the same on the other side. So come back, feet side by side, stepping the other foot forwards. Come back to a little bit of rocking forwards and back, dropping your weight down into your feet. Just settling, breathing. And then again, touch front leg hand, touch the thumb and index finger together, the pad of the finger or the nail of the finger. Bring the hand onto your breastbone. And then we'll shift the weight, all of the weight into the front foot, catch the back foot, maybe settle just in the center here before you reach forwards and back for a cycle of breath. And then as you start to reach your arm forwards, turning your palm up, keeping that contact of thumb and index finger, reaching the leg back behind you. And just, noticing how it feels to be doing the same balance, but with this mudra, this hand position, and how does that help? That's it. Again, reaching the foot back away from the bottom. We might be forgetting the foot with our contact on our hand. Very nice. Lovely. Good. And then releasing. Very nice. Let's have a little shake out. And coming back again into a forward bend and a squat if you like, or just a forward bend. Forward bend. Letting the head go. Down into a squat if you want. Again, if that feels good for the lower back, yes, you can do your weeping willow movements. And then sinking down into your heels, rolling up into standing. And we're very, very close to lying down, but I just want to do one little bit of settling in standing with your breathing. So you could either, you've got a choice, you could either, the two things we did earlier, so either with your hand on your belly, your hand on your chest, or with your hands on your low ribs. So choose one of those positions for your hands as we settle in standing, maybe just for 3 cycles of breath. So hands on your low ribs, or one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. You could do a little bit of swaying if you like to settle. Maybe you sway a little bit and then you start to move less and less. Settling down into standing. Gathering your attention to your breathing, to the contact of your hands on your body. And can you feel your body responding to your breathing? Your rib cage, your belly if your hand's there. So settling down, feeling the breath come in feeling the breath leaving you. Good. And then you're going to lie down. So just make sure you're going to be warm enough. We're just going to, I think, revisit a few of our sort of simple movements from the beginning of class. So you can put any warm things on that you like. And you could, if you want a blanket, maybe just have it to hand. Maybe don't put it on you just yet. But yeah, certainly socks or jumpers. And as usual, the first thing you're going to do once you arrive on your back is to arrive and settle and see how it feels. So lie down on your back, and sometimes, I mean, probably always when I lie down on my yoga mat at any point, there's just this feeling of oh yes, it's a chance to lie down. And once you've arrived and you've maybe had a couple of quiet breaths, just before I suggest movements to you, if there's any particular movements your body would enjoy, then just take this next sort of minute or two to, yeah, that's nice, Sheila. Good. Yeah, take this next minute or two to do any of those little movements. It might be doing nothing. That's also good. So when you've done whatever you would like to do, then organising yourself so your knees are bent and your feet are standing on the floor. And we're just going to do a few little things. So feeling the contact of the back of your head on the floor, feeling the contact of the back of your shoulders on the floor, and just letting your shoulders fall back and soften. And then starting to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. You can close your eyes, let the eyes rest back into the sockets. And then settle your head in the center in a comfortable place. Check that the back of your neck feels long and relaxed. Again, if you want to pick up your head in your hand, lengthen out the back of your neck, you can do. And then once your head is comfortably settled, settle your arms down, either on the floor beside you or with your hands resting on the front of your body. And then start to let your knees tilt a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. Keep it easy, keep it comfortable. And then pause in the center and take your feet a bit wider apart. So they're as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And now come to tilting your knees with your feet wider like this and see how that feels. So it could be that you just carry on tilting your knees from side to side. It could be, this is, some of you, it looks very comfortable, Aditi. It could be that you take your knees all the way over to one side. You might need to pop a cushion under one of the knees. So let the knees come down towards one side, and then you let your head roll in the, that's it, Sheila. Fold that cushion in half, I think, and then that will work well. So let your knees fall all the way to one side, and then let your head roll in the opposite direction. And see if you can just settle there for a couple of breaths. So your knees are falling down to one side and staying there, if that's okay, and your head is rolling to the other side, and the shoulder is nice and settled where your head is.
Yes, and then you can maybe come back to a little bit of tilting your knees from side to side before you move on to the second side. Yeah, Aditi, that looks really marvelous. Looks, yeah, really, really good. Lovely, that's it, Sheila. So make sure you've got enough support for those legs. And so again, if you want to, you can let your legs come down to the other side. If you need to support one of your knees with a cushion, you can. And then let your head roll in the opposite direction. And have perhaps 2 or 3 cycles of breath there, giving the weight of your body down to the ground. If you feel that you're hanging on a little bit, then some big sighing breaths. Otherwise, just settling with your quiet breathing. So when you come back to the center after your knees being out to the side, if you feel that it would be helpful for your back to fold your knees into your chest just before we settle down finally, then yeah, come back. Might be, yes, Sheila, that looked easier, that folding in of your knees. So I'm hoping it's feeling a little bit easier. So that's it, folding your knees into your chest, a little bit of rocking round, and then we will settle down either with the knees bent and the feet standing on the floor or the legs long. And I thought we would just finish with the one where we rub our hands together and bring our palms over our eyes. So make sure your legs are settled down on the ground. So if, like me, your hands are feeling a little bit chilly, try and rub your hands together, fronts and backs, until your hands are warm. And then we'll just enjoy a little bit of darkness by bringing our palms over our eyes. So the base of the palm rests on the bone, the socket bone beneath the eye. The sort of domed center of the palm over your eyes and your fingers on your forehead. Sarah, you might want to bring your feet onto the floor. I don't know if that's more relaxing. That's it. And then just let your eyes rest back in the darkness. The contact of the fingers on the forehead, sort of like soothing and quietening. If you like, you can let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And then it's up to you. If you enjoy having your hands over your eyes and that's not causing any discomfort in your shoulders, you can keep them there. But at any point, you can bring your hands down to rest on your belly or your arms to rest on the floor beside you. And we'll just have another few cycles of breath before I ring the singing bowl. So thank you very much. You can unmute yourselves if you like. Thank you.
Thank you, Cara.
Thank you.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
Really nice to see you. Well, see you briefly at the beginning, Linda.
Yes, yes.
And Sheila, you seem to get on okay, actually.
Yeah, it was okay. It's mainly when I'm standing I get the aching.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So doing the exercise, the postures was okay. In fact, most of it was fine.
But the sounding, okay, yes.
Well,
So
that bodes well.
yeah, okay, yes, good, yes. I hope that it continues to get better. So, so there is a class next Monday, even though it's a bank holiday. So anyway, well, hopefully, see. It is a bank holiday, isn't it? Next Monday.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. In May. Okay.
Okay. Lots
See you
of love.
Friday.
Thank you, Karen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye all.